Alright, so in order to read music, there are two things you have to know. Firstly, what pitch the note is, and secondly, how long it lasts. I'm going to focus on that second thing. Music is measured in beats, and the tempo, or how fast the piece is going, is measured in beats per minute. This is how it's written. This is a metronome going 84 beats per minute. That's what it sounds like. Each tick of the metronome is one beat. What shape the note is tells us how many beats it lasts for. So there at the top is a whole note which lasts 4 beats. It breaks down into 2 half notes which last 2 beats each. Each half note makes 2 quarter notes, which then in turn makes 2 eighth notes, and so on and so forth, making an infinite number of infinitely short notes. Now, you may have noticed that there are no notes that are factors of 3, so in order to do that, we simply add a dot next to the note to indicate that it lasts for 1.5 times the original value. Add a dot to our half note, and it now lasts 3 beats. Add a dot to a quarter note, and it lasts 1.5 beats. When we do that to a whole note, it lasts 6 beats. So as you can see, this note now lasts the same as 3 quarter notes, this one 3 eighth notes, and then that note lasts for 6 quarter notes. And just like there are ways to note how long you play, there are also ways to show how long to stay silent. This here is a quarter rest. That's an eighth rest, and this is a 16th rest. This is a whole rest, and that's a half rest. And when you write the whole rest or the half rest on a staff, they always go on the second space, like that. Now that we know all that, let's look at it in the context of a piece of music. You can see that there are lines separating the music into sections. These mark measures. So each measure always has a certain number of beats in it, and that's determined by the time signature. So the time signature looks like a fraction, but it isn't really. The top number represents how many notes are in each measure, and the bottom number is how long each note is. So if you have 4/4, that means that there are 4 quarter notes in each measure. 3/4 has 3 quarter notes in each measure. And 6/8, another common time signature, has 6 eighth notes per measure. Interestingly, if we go back to our little tree here, there's definitely a mathematical relationship between the number of notes per measure and the length of each note. And if you're in 4/4, this can be written as y equals 4 over x, where y is the length of the note and x is the number per measure. And when you graph it, it looks kind of like this. The reason that we break pieces into measures is because it makes it much, much easier to count out how long a note is. And when it comes to music, counting is really important, and there's a special way to do it. Right now I'm focusing on 4/4, so we would count this, 4 quarter notes, as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we broke all of those quarter notes into eighth notes, there would be twice the number of notes, but that were fitting into the same amount of space. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so now, when we add 16th notes in, we count that as 1 and a 2, 3, 4. Now for this, we would count this as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then and. This, we would count 1 and a 2 and, 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. But that's just counting in 4/4. If we were to count in 6/8, like this, we would just count to 6, and so this would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 4, 5, 6 would be all one note. If you're counting at 3/4, just count to 3 instead of 4. Okay, so here's a real-life example. These are the first 2 lines of Bach's Violin Concerto in A minor. First of all, take note of the fact that this is in 2/4, so that means there are 2 quarter notes in one measure. So that's the pickup note, and we're going to ignore it. So first of all, you count this as 1, 2 and then 1, 2 and. Again, same for the second measure. This would be counted as 1 and a 2 and a. This would be counted as 1 and then the rest is the 2, and then and a. Same for that measure. So for that measure, another 1 and a 2 and a. Same again, and then this would be counted 1 and 2, 1 and a 2 and. And then that measure goes 1 and 2, 1 and a 2 and. Here's what it sounds like when it's played. Well, that's it. I'll see you soon.